Besides shows like Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia and Bleach, Demon Slayer has probably been the most discussed shonen in the past couple of years. And that doesn't come as a surprise, given the immense momentum this show has been gaining since its release back in 2019. I can't tell you why, but I actually made it into the end of 2022 not having watched one episode of the show. But a couple of weeks ago I finally decided to give Demon Slayer a chance, and what can I say other than not only is Demon Slayer a fantastic shonen, it also revived the love that I thought has been gone for a long time. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. If you're like me, or like Anal, who has been living on the moon for the past couple of years, let me quickly tell you what this show is about. Demon Slayer tells the story of two siblings who have been victims of a tragic fate. After our protagonist Tanjiro returns home, he finds his whole family slaughtered by a demonic force. Only his sister Nezuko survived the attack, but being bitten, turns into a demon herself. Now Tanjiro wanders throughout the Taisho period to find a cure for her sister, while simultaneously stopping all the demons. Yes, the premise is as straightforward as you may expect it from a shonen like this, but the simplicity is simultaneously one of the biggest strengths of this show. First, despite being a shonen, the main protagonist's goal is not as life-changing and extreme as other examples of this genre. Tanjiro neither wants to be Hokage of his village or be the next pirate king, but simply wants to save his sister from a doomed fate. On top of that, Tanjiro is less goofy than your archetypical shonen protagonist, given the extremely brutal environment he's living in and the immense responsibility that weighs on his shoulders. Likewise, his allies Zenitsu and Inosuke differ greatly from your typical shonen foes, since they are not blindly following Tanjiro, but have their own flaws to deal with. Zenitsu, despite being extremely skilled swordsman, struggles with low self-esteem and constant fear, whereas Inosuke battles with his enormous pride and short temper. All of this adds a grounded feeling towards the show and helps identifying with our heroes. If you have experiences with the shonen formula, you will quickly realize familiar patterns. After the tragic incident, Tanjiro first has to start his training by a mentor called Sakonchi, who has lost all his students due to the same demon. After he completes his training, he is set into the world of Demon Slayer to help cities in need. Once he slays a demon, a raven will inform him where to go next. This formula is repeated a couple of times, which makes it a little bit repetitive at first glance. That being said, I was never bored of this structure, because Demon Slayer cleverly knows how to circumvent any dragging of the story. The reason for that is the on-point pacing of the show. Although it can feel like the typical monster of the week scheme, demons are not simply killed within one episode, but are given enough time to really challenge our protagonists. At the same time, the fights themselves never drag out for too long. The show always knows when to bring a battle to the end and give Tanjiro something new and exciting to do. And despite the many heart-racing moments that the show creates, and there are plenty of them, it never forgets to give our heroes space to breathe. There is not one show that I could think of that is as perfectly balanced as Demon Slayer. There were episodes where I just couldn't stop watching, while never having the feeling that what is happening on screen is too rushed. Despite fulfilling every criteria of a shonen show, I was surprised how dark and gritty it can get from time to time. Make no mistake, the world of Demon Slayer is a ruthless one. And I'm not specifically talking about the visual violence that is very much apparent. The world of mangaka Koyoharu Gotoge is filled with heartbreaking fates and tragic losses. I always held my breath looking into Tanjiro's eyes when he slays another demon. Knowing that this creature, while being a killer, has been an innocent victim in the past, releases an unmissable sadness in his eyes that made myself sad as well every time. Being the good-hearted spirit that he is, it's the merciless nature of this world which goes against everything Tanjiro stands for. This is definitely one of the darker shonen there is out there. But fortunately, Demon Slayer never loses his lightheartedness due to its quirky side characters and Nezuko. Seriously, can a character be more cute than that? Coming back to the villains of Demon Slayer, they are some of the coolest I have seen in recent times. What elevates the show from a typical shonen to a phenomenal one is the amount of depth the show spends on its villains. No fight, and there are a lot of them, plays out the same time twice, thanks to the variety of different abilities these demons inherit. But what makes these fights so gratifying in the first place is the immense profundity of these villains. The theme of family, the trust, the loyalty, ich kann es nicht aussprechen, the loyalty, the theme of family, the trust, the loyalty, and the level of self-sacrifice is not only visible in Tanjiro. Over the course of the first season, the show explores a variety of different family and parental bonds, all with their distinctive dynamics. Demon Slayer humanizes its demons, which is by far one of the most clever decisions of this show. They are not simply soulless enemies of Tanjiro, but living beings with a past as tragic as the one of the protagonist himself. And this is why the fights between them are all the more fascinating. Of course, there's no way to talk about Demon Slayer and not mention the amazingly animated and well choreographed sword fights of this show. Back in 2019, Ufotable seemed to have set a new standard for Japanese animation, and with season 2, it seems like they have been surpassing themselves once again. I have been a fan of Ufotable since Fate Zero, that still looks absolutely mind-blowing given that the show came out in 2008. The fights are by far the biggest highlight of Demon Slayer and kept my eyes glued to the screen, especially in one specific episode. But more on that in a second. It's also surprising that this anime is actually Ufotable's first work on a shonen title, but since the animation for fights has always been a highlight of the studio, I expected nothing less from them. But as already mentioned in the beginning, there was something that made me deeply fall in love with this show, which is my love for shonen in general. When I look back on all the shows that I've been watching in recent time, I somehow realized that I've been consuming less and less shonen. Maybe it's because I'm getting older and my interests have been shifting, so the shonen genre, despite my continuous love for One Piece, has been slowly declining. That was until I saw episode 19 of Demon Slayer. This episode made me speechless. It was not just amazing because of Ufotable's animation that exceeded itself in those 2 minutes, but also the way the story tied in Tanjiro's loss, his family, specifically his father, the love for his sister, his deepest wish to save her from her fate, all combined into this hell of a sequence. It was then that I realized that Demon Slayer is an exceptional shonen. But this scene did something else. It reminded me of my childhood. I grew up with shonen. I remember the days coming home from kindergarten, later school, to watch them in German TV. And it is safe to say that these shows made me who I am right now. And watching Demon Slayer, I felt this excitement again. This excitement that shonen shows used to provoke in me. The moments of despair in which all seems lost. The shiver that goes through my body when the fight reaches its peak. All these were moments I experienced because and through shonen when I was younger. If my 12-year-old self would watch Demon Slayer now, I would be sure that this would make him an admirer of this genre. Yeah, I'm kinda glad that I watched this anime, as I am now more in love with this genre than I have been ever before. Demon Slayer may not be the perfect anime, but for me, it is the perfect shonen. And now, I can't wait for season 2. So what do you guys think of Demon Slayer? Please let me know in the comments down below. It is my deepest wish to share my passion for anime and manga with this world, so if you like this video, you can help me get closer to that goal. Thank you very much. My name is Leon. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. This episode made me speechless. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Would you actually say slay to Demon Slayer?